Hello. In my TikTok video today, I talked about the 7 colors of the rainbow and how they represent aspects of our emotional world. Red stands for anger that turns to fury and rage. Orange stands for worry that turns to anxiety and agony. Yellow stands for fear that turns to terror and horror. Green is jealousy of other people's bodies and envy of their spiritual contents. Blue is sorrow that turns to disappointment, disappointment in others, and disappointment in yourself because you don't understand how to operate yourself and what your feelings are for. This can go to the, the highest level of blue, the darkest level of blue, grief, where you're utterly absorbed with the loss of a loved one or the loss of yourself. And the last color, or indigo, stands for mystery and madness. The mystery of life, how my story and his story, God's story, intersect, and how that can lead to such confusion and such apprehension from within. And the final color, violet, is about ecstasy, orgasm, and joy. Joy is not the same as happiness. Happiness is external. Joy is internal. Joy can be bittersweet. Joy can be sweet and sour. Bitter stands for disappointing, bittersweet, disappointing, and loving. Sweet and sour, loving and angering. Your inner world is full of feelings and they can beguile you. When we go back to the Hebrew Testament, you will understand that the Republicans are misinterpreting the Old Testament. And the Republicans are made up of Orthodox Jews and evangelical Christians. And the fanatical Muslims are also misinterpreting the Quran. They don't understand the foundation, so they don't understand what they're doing with their own scripture. These scriptures are forms of poetry. The literal word from God cannot teach you everything you need to know about words and about yourself. In the external world, we have science, but in the internal world, we have spirituality, and it's made up of the Hebrew Testament, the Gospels, and the Quran. This creates an Abrahamic man. This is the man who, in the West, understands how to achieve wisdom, not just knowledge, love, not just hope, and loyalty, not just obligation to others. When we go back to the creation story in the Hebrew Testament, the first story that Moses gave us, we realize that Moses is a poet, not a prophet. What he's saying is that man was planted in a garden, Eden. He was planted like a tree. Adam means man, individual man in Hebrew. Man is the head of this tree. Out of this tree, out of this seed, comes Eve. The word for Eve in Hebrew is Chava. Chava means life. The man who seeks knowledge discovers life. He discovers life within himself. He discovers his emotional realm, where hope becomes his greatest guide. Man's thoughts and man's feelings are not alone. Soon he discovers that below his waist there is a serpent. This serpent in his tree uh, hangs down over 2 forbidden fruits. Man was never forbidden from eating from this tree. The concept of being forbidden is the idea of being a child. When you're a child, you're forbidden from knowing the essence of good and evil. You're harmonically unable to avail yourselves of the juice from this fruit. When you hit puberty, all of a sudden, the serpent in your tree begins to talk, and out of its mouth comes the juice of the fruits of good and evil. This is what Moses is referring to. This is the concept of change that happens to all men. And this is what Moses is explaining to us so that we can appreciate the journey of every man's life. All of Genesis, the first of the 5 books of Moses, is about every man, every Adam, and how he changes over time. After Moses has talked about everyone, every man, then he talks about his own journey. And the 5 books of Moses, Torah, becomes his autobiography. Every man produces a liquid that is the elixir of life. It produces life. And every woman has a worm in her apple that also talks. And every woman's fruits are above her waist, and out of the fruits of her tree of knowledge comes milk. And this is the liquid that sustains life. Republicans want to control women's bodies. They want to control the production of babies. And so they want to force women to have babies that they produce with their semen, with their liquid life. They also want to control the pain and pleasure principle. They want to remove lust from the world. They hate lust. They hate passion. They hate the passion for life. And so they're against gay men as well, because gay men are not going to stand for this nonsense, this ridiculous interpretation of this talking serpent as an evil force called Satan that's going to enter into your body and force you to do things that you don't want to do. Everyone is responsible for his own actions, and everyone will be judged for his own actions. There is no Satan, there is no devil. There's only a talking serpent in your tree, and you had better learn to understand yourself poetically, because you were planted in this garden, and this garden changed when you hit puberty. It became an orchard of experiences that you have to learn to choose from, to understand good and evil, and to make good decisions. The word for orchard in Hebrew is pardes. As you hit puberty, you enter the pardes. This word has been bastardized, changed over the millennia from pardes to paradise. The Republicans want to give you the impression, and so do the fanatical Muslims, that they are in charge of you getting to paradise. It's ridiculous. You got to paradise, pardes, when you hit puberty. Everything about you is about an inner world experience that has outer world consequences. The world around us that we have to learn to share is an iceberg, the tip of the iceberg. The rest of the iceberg is within you. Become a poet. Don't become prosaic like the Orthodox Jews, the evangelical Christians, and the fanatical Muslims. Learn to understand Scripture as poetry to elucidate who you are and who you have the power to become. When you look at the creation story in this way, then the next story, the story of Cain and Abel, the next generation of Adam and Eve, thoughts and feelings, is about the young man who realizes that he can't get everything that he wants. So instead of killing God because God interferes with what he wants in the world around us, he kills his brother instead. The mind overwhelms the heart. The mind kills the heart, and the heart cries out from the ground of its own being for justice from God. This is the second story. And the third story, Noah, is about a man who has been told by God that he's going to be overwhelmed by his hormones, overwhelmed by the waters within him, and he had better build a boat for the animal instincts that he holds inside of him. Once you understand these three stories as a progression, the fourth story, the Tower of Babel, is about man's conspiratorial nature, especially as a young man, as he works with other young people to try to get up to God's realm, above the clouds, by building a tower, a great big tower. And then they're going to climb the tower and usurp God on the throne. And God, of course, knocks down that tower. In me, that tower was not knocked down externally. It was knocked down internally with mental illness. I suffered from severe, severe mental illness as a young man. They diagnosed me and labeled me paranoid schizophrenic. I have moved through that terrible experience. I am a poet. I am an interpreter of poetry, just as Jesus was. Jesus was a great Jew who came out of his head, through his stiff neck, and into his heart. And he explained to his fellow Jews how hope could be reinterpreted as a combination of feelings that can lead to love, love of God, love of his Father. This is something that is so easy to understand when you understand the poetry that Jesus presented to the world as symbolism. He gave his body as flesh and blood, bread and wine. His body was like bread and his blood was like wine. He created the container contents symbolism that was added to the main metaphor of Moses. When you go beyond just knowledge, when you seek wisdom, you go beyond just hope, you seek love. But what happens? What happens is that our hearts get broken, and then we get cynical and bitter and angry, and then we don't believe that there's really hope for us to change, transform, and transcend who we are on a daily basis. The story in the Quran is about the Archangel Gabriel, who came to Muhammad in his heart and led him out of his heart into his soul to make him a soulful person who could see his thoughts and his feelings in a whole new way. We all need to become Abrahamic men. We all need to go beyond the story of creation, beyond the story of Cain and Abel, Noah, the Tower of Babel, to become an Abraham. The three stories of Abraham, Isaac, and Jacob lead each of us to have our name changed from Jacob to Israel, Israel, struggle with God. Each of us is in a struggle with God within us. And the son of Jacob, Joseph, is Yosef in Hebrew. Yosef means to supplement, to add. When you look at the Genesis and these names for man that change, we get a psychological interpretation, a psychological map of what every man goes through in life. Once you have absorbed that and understand that, then you're ready to become a Moses unto yourself. You're ready to go on a mission to help other people. This is what the Hebrew Testament is all about at its core, Torah. This is what the Republicans don't understand. Come November, don't vote Republican. Vote for hope. Vote for love. Vote for your future. And your future includes not just your life here on earth, but Pardes, paradise. Don't work against your own efforts to achieve paradise here on earth, in America, and afterlife. It's terribly important that you become a poet unto yourself and not prosaic. Jesus was a gay Jew. I too am a gay Jew. I have a weird, uncanny ability for interpreting scripture, all the world's scripture. And I will continue to show you how the scriptures of the Hindus, the Buddhists, and the Taoists have equally important revelations to helping you become a whole human being. Thank you for watching this video today. Please send it to those that you know who are confused, who are unable to find themselves, and who are adamant that they have all the answers with their literal interpretation of Scripture. Science is not the only answer. Religion is not the only answer. You need both. You need to combine the two into spirituality. If you don't, you will oppress women and you will oppress gay men. We don't deserve to be treated this way any longer, and we're not going to take it. Help us help you. We know more than you. We know more about the poetry that leads to inspiration, that will lead you to true understanding of God's nature, your soulful nature, and how you can make a difference in this world. Good Thoughts, you'll find this video on YouTube, and you'll find this video at my website called Republicans and Rainbows. Bye.